the Superscope Storyteller presents Alice in Wonderland.
Down the rabbit hole. The warmth of the midsummer day had lessened somewhat under the shade of the familiar old chestnut tree. Alice lay with her head on her sister's lap, only half listening to the story being read. She could not help admiring the nearby brook, its ripples weaving an unending pattern through the water. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught the corner of Alice's eye. Whatever it was seemed to dart around a hedge directly behind her sister.
Alice, what are you looking at? I thought I saw something. An animal of some sort. It ran up the path. Oh, please, may I follow and see what it is?
Well, all right. But don't be gone too long.
Alice ran down the winding path for some distance until she came to a spot where she had never been before. Her sister brought her to this part of the countryside many times, and Alice had thought she'd explored every nook and cranny. But now, she found herself in an unfamiliar cove, surrounded by thick ferns and shaded by a twisted old oak tree. It was fortunate she chose this moment to stop, for she would have frightened away the little white rabbit standing in front of the tree. As Alice peered through the foliage, she marveled at the strangeness of the small creature. Dressed in a little coat and vest, he pulled a watch out of his pocket and anxiously looked at it.
Oh dear, I shall be too late.
The creature quickly jumped into a large rabbit hole, and Alice wasted no time at all following him in. She began crawling down a long, dark tunnel as fast as she could go. She was in such a hurry that she didn't notice the sudden dip in the cave until it was too late. Down and down she fell. But when Alice looked about, she discovered that she was really floating. It was such a slow descent that she was not in the least bit worried anymore, and began to observe the sides of the cave.
Why, there are bookshelves and cupboards on the walls. This is the most unusual cave I've ever seen.
As she floated down, she passed pictures and maps. She even went by a large clock that seemed to be smiling at her. Deeper and deeper she went. Alice began to wonder if the fall would ever end, when suddenly she landed upon a soft pile of leaves and twigs. Alice was unhurt and quickly jumped to her feet. In front of her was a long passage through which the white rabbit was traveling at a very fast pace. Before he turned the corner, he stopped once again to check his watch.
Oh, my ears and whiskers, how late it's getting.
When Alice finally reached the same corner, she turned and came to an abrupt stop. She was in a long, low hall, surrounded on all sides by doors. The rabbit was nowhere to be seen. Alice tried to open each of the doors, but all were locked. Then she noticed a small three-legged table with several objects on it.
This is strange. A box, a bottle, and a tiny golden key. I wonder if the key will open any of these doors.
Alice tried to open each one of the doors, but the key would not fit. She became discouraged and was about to lose hope when she found a low curtain she hadn't noticed before. Behind it was a little door about 15 inches high. She tried the key in the lock, and the door opened at once. Inside was a narrow tunnel leading outside to a beautiful garden.
If I can just squeeze through this passageway, I shall be able to catch that rabbit. But, oh dear, my shoulders are too wide.
Alice twisted and turned, but it was no use. She was too large. Alice began to cry as she slowly walked back to the table. Then she noticed that the glass box she'd viewed earlier had a small piece of cake inside.
On it were the words, "Eat me."
If I ate this, I wonder if I'd grow small enough to fit through the door. Well, there's only one way to find out.
Alice opened the box and started to eat the cake, waiting anxiously with each bite for the slightest change in her size.
The cake is delicious, and I'm getting curiouser and curiouser. Oh, my!
Alice looked down at the floor and realized that instead of getting closer, it was becoming further away. She was growing taller and could do nothing to stop it. Finally, her head hit the ceiling.
Ooh! Now I shall never get through the door.
Alice once again started to cry. Since she was now a giant, Alice shed gallons of tears, which splashed unnoticed on the floor. After some time, she happened to see a tiny note attached to the bottle on the table. Alice picked up the bottle and closely examined it. The label had the words, "Drink me," written on it. After making certain it was not marked poison, she drank from it. At first, nothing happened. Then she shrank so rapidly that she tumbled through the air and landed in a large pool of salt water. Alice realized that the pool was formed by the tears she had shed when she was a giant, and that it was very deep.
I wish I hadn't cried so much. Now I shall be punished, I suppose, by being drowned in my own tears.
Just then, she heard some splashing and saw something swimming towards her. Thinking it might be a large animal like a walrus or a hippopotamus, Alice was relieved to discover that it was only a mouse. As soon as it was close enough, Alice spoke to the creature.
Oh, Mouse, do you know a way out of this pool? I'm very tired swimming about here. Oh, Mouse!
The creature did not reply. Wondering if perhaps the reason was that the mouse couldn't understand English, Alice decided to try French. She spoke the only words she knew in that language.
Louis Machat?
The mouse gave a sudden leap out of the water and seemed to shake all over with fear. Then Alice realized that she had asked, "Where is my cat?"
Oh, I beg your pardon. I quite forgot that mice don't like cats.
Not like cats? Would you like cats if you were me?
Well, I suppose not. But I wish I could show you our cat, Dinah. I'm certain you would feel the same as I do about her. She's such a nice playmate, and you should see how great she is at catching mice.
This upset the mouse so that his fur be bristly all over. Alice saw that she had again offended the mouse.
I'm terribly sorry. If you prefer, we won't talk about cats anymore.
We indeed. I'm trembling right down to the end of my tail at the very thought of the nasty, vulgar things. Don't ever let me hear the word cat again.
You have my promise. Do you like dogs? There's this beautiful little terrier that lives near our house. It belongs to a farmer, and he says it's worth a lot of money. Why, he was telling me it destroys all the rats around. Oh, dear, I've done it again. Please come back.
But the mouse would not listen, and it kept on paddling until it was out of sight. By this time, the pool was becoming crowded with other birds and animals that had fallen in, and Alice decided it was high time for her to swim to shore. It did not take long for Alice to paddle her way through the tunnel and finally set foot upon dry land. She found herself in the midst of a beautiful garden. The colorful array of giant flowers towered over her like palm trees. She came to a clearing, and before her was a large mushroom. After curiously examining the stalk, Alice stretched herself up on tiptoe and suddenly came face to face with a large caterpillar. He was smoking a long hookah and took several puffs before he spoke.
Who are you?
Why, I hardly know, sir. At least I know who I was when I arose this morning. But I've changed several times since then.
How have you changed? I don't understand.
Alice thought it strange to explain herself to a caterpillar, but she obliged the creature out of courtesy.
Perhaps you will someday when you change into a butterfly. I should think you'd feel it a bit strange. I certainly would if it happened to me.
You? Who are you?
Now Alice and the creature were back to where their conversation had begun. Alice became a bit irritated and drew closer to the caterpillar.
I think you ought to tell me who you are first.
Why?
This was another puzzling question. And since Alice could not answer him, and since the caterpillar seemed to be in a very unpleasant mood, Alice turned away. But the caterpillar quickly called after her.
Stop. Come back. I've something very important to tell you.
Well, all right. If it is that important, what is it you wish to say?
Keep your temper.
Is that all?
No.
The caterpillar sat for some minutes, silently puffing away on his hookah. Finally, he unfolded his arms and removed the pipe from his mouth.
So you think you've changed, do you?
I'm afraid I have, sir. I've changed sizes several times.
What size do you want to be?
Well, I should think I'd prefer to be somewhat larger. 3 inches is such an awful height to be.
The caterpillar angrily reared himself upright, revealing the fact that this was just about how tall he was.
3 inches is a very good height.
But I'm not used to it.
You will be after a while. In time, you'll grow to like it.
The caterpillar put his pipe in his mouth and began smoking again. Alice stared down at the ground in dismay. When she looked back up, she thought her eyes were deceiving her. The caterpillar had changed into a beautiful butterfly. As he lifted into the air, he called out to Alice.
One side will make you grow taller, and the other side will make you grow shorter.
One side of what? The other side of what?
Of the mushroom.
Soon the butterfly had disappeared over the tall flowers. Alice stood looking thoughtfully at the mushroom, trying to guess where the sides were, since it was perfectly round. Finally, she broke off a portion with each hand.
Now which is which? Well, the only way I'm going to find out is to give it a try.
Alice began to chew a piece of the left-hand portion, and soon she was back to her normal size. It was now dusk, and as Alice began to walk through the beautiful lily field, she noticed that the sun was casting an orange hue over the land. Suddenly, the white rabbit ran past Alice. As she ran after him, Alice somehow knew that there would be many more places to see and many more adventures in Wonderland.